Mike, check 1 2. It's the Y2K Collector. Happy Monday to you. I wanted to talk about two things. I wanted to talk about the rush of game hunting and what that means in 2025 versus 30 years ago. And then I also wanted to talk about the necessity of physical games. So let's first talk about the rush. This thought was really kind of inspired by a comment that I got from a longtime subscriber, a longtime commenter on the channel. And he basically made the statement that he is no longer excited at finding games. For him, he longs for the rush that he once felt when he could find games like, just for example, Silent Hill for $5 or Hagane for $10 or, any kind of rare game that you could think of today. He misses the days where you could walk into a store and find those games for $2 or $3, and that rush of adrenaline kicks in because you're getting a steal of a deal. And I'll be quite honest with you, in the last 5 years of game hunting for me, I could probably count on maybe one hand how many times I've been able to have that experience where I find a game that I know is worth over $100 for pennies on the dollar, right? Or even found a handheld console that I know is worth $80 for $2.50, right? That has not happened to me as a game hunter in a very, very long time. And even throughout my game hunting that I've been, more aggressive, I've been aggressively game hunting probably for the last 6 to 7 years. I can't I can't count more than 5 times that that's actually happened to me. Now, I do know that if you go back to the early 2000s, maybe even the late 90s, the odds of you having that type of experience was way more probable, right? It was a lot more probable that you were going to run into an Earthbound for $2 or, any one of these games. The, that was definitely something that you saw a lot more back then. And I'll agree that that is a completely different experience from just finding a game at 25% off, 30% off, or even at market value. It's not the same, right? Um, but what does that mean for game hunters and game collectors today? How should we then approach game hunting or retro game hunting, especially when it comes to the games that you don't have in your collection? And I think this is where it gets tricky, and it kind of goes back to, a conversation that I had a few videos back. In 2025, the odds of you even finding a copy of Agane in the wild are slim to none, let alone finding it for $2, right? It would be a complete and total anomaly for someone to find a game like Hagane in the wild, period. Just period. Just finding it is a challenge in and of itself, right? And then being able to find it for $2 is a whole other mountain that you'd have to climb to be able to achieve that experience, right? And so does that mean that that experience is gone? Is it still possible to have that type of experience in 2025? And if it is, right? If it is possible for you to have that type of a game hunting experience in 2025, what would it take for you to get it? How much hunting would you have to do? How much searching? How much investigating and inquiring and seeking would you have to do to achieve an experience like that in 2025, right? And I think that is really the question that comes to my mind, especially when I find games in the wild that are really rare. I have to ask myself, okay, the first thing I ask myself is, what are the odds that I'll ever find this game again? I forget price, right? I just think about the fact that, okay, here I am, I've found this game in the wild, and I've never found this game in the wild. I've never seen this game in the wild before at all. So that's kind of the first question that I ask myself. Then the second question that I ask myself is I look at the price and I say, okay, is this price even feasible, right? Is this price even worth looking into, right? Is it worth even entertaining the thought uh, of even trying to get this game? And I'm not gonna lie, there have been plenty of times that I found games in the wild, and I said to myself, this game is just way too overpriced. I have to walk away from it. Even just the other day, I saw a copy of Earthbound at a retro game store. I don't think I had ever seen a physical copy of Earthbound in person before, and I was at a store that that actually had a copy of that game. And for me, the price that they were asking was way too much. I didn't feel like Earthbound was worth it. But for me, there was a bit of a rush just in seeing the game, just being able to find and see the game in person. I had a similar experience over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend where I wound up seeing a copy of Super Turrican 2 at a mom and pop retro GameStop. Not a mom and pop retro GameStop, at a mom and pop shop rather. They had a copy of Super Turrican 2. I would say it was in maybe a 6.5 to 7 out of 10 condition. But just seeing a copy of Super Turrican 2 for me was like, wow, because I never see that game in the wild anywhere, not in any Goodwill, thrift store, pawn shop, GameStop, mom and pop shop. And so I think in 2025, part of the rush, a big part of the rush for anyone who's seeing these games 20, 30 years post their heyday, right? Because if you think about it, the Super Nintendo was still somewhat relevant in the 90s. Then it started to drop off in the early 2000s, as people started getting more accustomed to the sixth gen, right? By 2000, we were already well into the sixth generation. So here we are now, we're 30, in some cases 40 years removed, or approaching 40 years removed from some of these games. And I think for game hunters today, a big part of that rush is just even seeing it. Even if you don't buy it, just seeing the games, I think are a big part of the rush. Now, if you did, whether or not you decide to buy the game, that's completely different. But for a collector, when you think about how much you're spending on a game, I think a big part of that you think about when you think about if you're going to buy it or not is one, when am I going to see this game in the wild again? Two, how much does this price differ from what I'm seeing on eBay or online? And three, am I going to get the value out of this game, in terms of adding it to my collection? And I think that's where collectors have to make the decision as to whether or not they want to add some of these really expensive games into their collection, or if they want to pass because the price is too high. Regardless, I think that the thought was a very interesting thought, and I really love to know what you guys think in the comments below, because there's going to be two sides or two vantage points on this. There's going to be the vantage point of the person who lived through the 90s and remembers when a lot of these really rare and expensive games were $5 and $10. And then you have the vantage point of the person who maybe never had the opportunity to get those games, so they don't know what that rush feels like. But here now in 2025, when they're able to see some of these games for the first time ever live in person, the rush of just being able to see them, it's like seeing a really old artifact. Being able to see it, uh, I think it creates a different type of rush, a different type of nostalgia. But I'm interested to know your guys' thoughts on that down in the comments. The other thing that I wanted to talk about too was someone left a comment in regards to the reprint of The Messenger. So The Messenger got a reprint and it's available now. I did pick up a copy, but one of the comments that I got was, from a commenter, they said, that they were really excited and happy that, more, I guess, I don't know if they were saying collectors or game players, but basically they were saying more people are going to have the opportunity to play The Messenger thanks to its reprint. And I thought about it and I was like, yes, that is true. More people will get to own it physically. but I don't know if the reprint really impacts a person who just wants to play the game. Because the reality is that you could have played the messenger all along if you just wanted to play it because it's available for download. So a reprint of a video game doesn't necessarily impact people who just want to play the game, in my opinion, because for a person who wants to play the messenger, they're just going to download it. If all they care about truly is playing the game, they're just going to download it. They're not going to sit around and wait for a reprint. Now, that would have been different maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago where people didn't have the ability to download games. But here in 2025, I don't think that gamers, not collectors, gamers, I don't think that gamers uh, are sitting around waiting for games to get a reprint in order to play them. I think people who want to play games are going to download and play them. I think reprints, more than anything else, they service the collector community because now someone who wanted to own the game physically has another opportunity to own the game. I don't think that, like I said, I don't think a gamer is waiting for a reprint. And so I'm interested to know what you guys think about that. Who do you think reprints benefit more? Do you think they benefit gamers or collectors? Because especially in 2025, in 2025, I think reprints are definitely going to work more in favor of the collector. Because most, like I said, most collectors, they're waiting for more opportunities to get some of these really rare and expensive games. And I think these reprints definitely help. Um, the best example that I'm always going to look at when it comes to these reprints is always going to be Blasphemous. Like I said in a previous video, Blasphemous was originally released by Limited Run, but then Team 17 came out with a re-release or a reprint that actually included all of the DLC. And to be honest, at first there was a little bit of a dip in the value of Blasphemous. There was a dip, but I would say in a matter of months to maybe like a year, like once all of the reprints were off of the shelves and there were no more reprints available on any platform, because it did come out again on Switch, Xbox One, and PS4. But once all of those were gone and everybody snapped those up, the price of Blasphemous shot right back up. And in fact, I want to say that the reprint version was even more expensive than the original because the reprint had all the DLC. So I do think that this reprint of the Messenger is going to impact the price of the Messenger while there are still copies floating around in circulation. But my mind tells me that once these copies of the Messenger are completely sold out and you can't find them in stores anymore, there's a good chance that the price of the Messenger will shoot back up again because you're going to be right back to square one, where you can't just walk into a store and buy a copy because there's no more copies available. So I'm interested to know what you guys think about that. Do you think that there was a difference in the case of Blasphemous versus the case of the Messenger? It's definitely something to think about. Two thought-provoking ideas for you on a Monday morning. I'm interested to know your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments. Hopefully you have a great week and you're starting the morning off strong. I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.